Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Dr. Burton Feinerman is an MD, and he's the founder of Stem Cell Genetic Med. And I think we've talked a lot about stem cells, Dr. Feinerman, but I would like you really to give us an explanation of what a stem cell is. The words are now just being thrown out, but what is a stem cell?
Well, stem cell is the basic repair mechanism that goes on in your body. And stem cells are formed in the embryo about the 5th day of gestation. And they turn into, they basically create organs of every type. From the stem cells, you're going to get your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your lungs, your liver, your intestines, and it's all from this embryonic stem cell that then matures into mature cells of the different organs.
So, there's been such a controversy, but yet apparently stem cells have been around for a long, long time, but it's why all of a sudden now is it becoming so popular?
Well, of course, there's been a suppression of its use in medicine for many, many years, and that still continues, unfortunately, to a large degree. The FDA came out with a statement years ago saying stem cells are a drug, and which is a pretty ridiculous statement, and they still kind of hang on to that theme. And it's only in rather recent times that they opened the door just ever so much a crack, in the sense that they now say that doctors can use stem cells as long as they're autologous, meaning coming from the patient's own body. And that if you take these stem cells out from a person, and as long as you don't manipulate them or put them in culture, that they have no objection. And when you look around the entire rest of the world, stem cells are widely used in Europe, particularly like in the Netherlands or in Sweden and Germany. At the same time, in Asia, you get a wide use of stem cells, particularly in Thailand. Singapore is the most advanced scientific center in the world, especially when it comes to stem cells. And the Philippines use it as well. And of course, almost all throughout South America are stem cells used.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you shared that with us, because people are very confused. I know that Dr. Mencia certainly understands it, but the general public really do not. And we are a very puritanical nation, and I am against all that. But I was so happy to find you, because you have had some great success with patients with stem cells. Before you tell us that, will you tell us a little bit about your background and where you came from, outside of under a rock or something?
Well, I was born and grew up in New York City and managed to escape when I was about 25 years of age. I was a graduate of New York Medical College, and then I took postgraduate training in Minnesota, which was almost the first time I ever left New York, and it was in Rochester, Minnesota, and it was quite an amazing and fun experience. My father at that point he would up his Oldsmobile so I could move out there, and that car meant more to him than I think my wife, his wife, my mother, and towards the end of my training there,
the Mayo Clinic is there, right?
At the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and towards the end of that training, I was given an invitation known as the draft to join the U.S. Army. And after going through basic training in San Antonio, Texas, and crawling under barbed wire and machine guns, I found myself in Germany and heading a very large hospital in southeastern Germany. It was about 150 bed hospital, and I was the.
You were young.
Oh yeah, I was young, but only because I trained at the Mayo Clinic. They thought I was God or something, but most of the other doctors were far smarter than I was. When I got out of the service, having lived now in Minnesota, which is like minus 30 degrees, and then Germany, which was equally as cold, I wanted to live in a warm place, and I migrated down to South Florida and actually practiced there for many years until I moved for a period of time in Hawaii. And it was really in Hawaii where I became interested in anti-aging medicine and drifted into learning about stem cells and realized the power and opportunities that might arise by my doing that. And then began treating patients, not in Hawaii, because at that time it was the George Bush days, and you couldn't do anything with stem cells in those days. So I started my first treatments in a god-awful place called Tijuana, Mexico. And don't forget, I'm living in Maui, Hawaii. So that was a short little hop of a mere 5 hours just to get there. And I subsequently, because again, stem cells were not allowed in the United States, at that point I had a friend that was a neurosurgeon and who had trained at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and he had become interested in stem cells. So we formed a friendship and partnership down there in Lima, Peru, and even till this day, I take certain very special, very seriously ill patients to treat down there only because of restrictions in the United States. I do have access to treat patients also in Cancun, Mexico, which is actually the medical care is quite good there, and the hospitals are very modern, and the doctors are usually have been trained in the United States. And I also have an opportunity to treat patients in Freeport, Bahamas. So I'm going to be using those things, those places in situations where I can't do what's necessary in the United States. But what we can. Patients can get treatments for chronic lung disease, COPD, pulmonary fibrosis. Patients and the lungs are actually the easiest access to get to. So even though a person's been smoking for 30 and 40 years, the treatment of COPD, emphysema, pulmonary fibrosis, the opportunity to improve that person's condition is very high, and the doctor can take stem cells from either the patient's own blood, bone marrow, or adipose fat tissue, and isolate what's called mesenchymal stem cells. And when they are given intravenously, 100% of them end up in the lung. They don't go in any other organ whatsoever. There's something called the pulmonary trap, and it grabs those stem cells, and then, as is the nature of stem cells, they migrate to areas of damage that need repair. And so people with lung disease, as long as they're willing to give up those cigarettes, you see patients on oxygen 2 to 5 liters, 24 hours a day. That should be enough. You don't have to necessarily take them to a pathologist office and see black lungs. You can just their lifestyle is very limited.
Well, I have a question though. I've been listening to you, and I'm really very impressed. We talk about preventive medicine. Why do we have to have a damaged lung? Can we just, let's say, maybe every 5 years or something, just have some good stem cells put in some various organs just to prevent anything? Can we do that?
Well, as Ben Carson, the doctor that's running for president, said, "Gotcha. You're absolutely right." And my original motto for the company, Stem Cell Genetic Med, was stem cells and gene therapy challenging the incurable. But I added a new one, and that is delaying stem cells, delaying the inevitable. In other words, longevity.
Yeah.
And so, when people talk about there's almost an anti-aging doctor nowadays on almost every street corner. They're rivals to Starbucks, I think, in that sense. And so, and when you go to the anti-aging doctor, he'll check you for you for bioidentical hormones and decide whether you need thyroid or estrogen or progesterone, or whether possibly even human growth hormone in some instances. He'll check your immune system, and as we age, of course, our immune system does decrease in strength, and he might prescribe things that will boost the T lymphocytes with thymosin, or the immunoglobulins, the B lymphocytes, with IV gamma muna once a month. And in more recent times, I think some of them at least are prescribing telomerase. Telomerase is an agent that lengthens the telomeres. The tips and ends of your telomeres. Just think of a shoelace with the little plastic tip at the end. It's that little plastic tip. That's the telomere. That's to give you some idea. And as you age, they get shorter and shorter. And you can there are laboratories that actually test that. The doctor just draws up the blood, he sends it out to the lab, and you can actually test to see how short your telomeres are.
But I had heard that you can't increase telomeres, but you're saying stem cells can.
Well,
that you have a certain amount of telomeres.
Well, no, but you can take an agent which is called telomerase, which is easily available and not expensive, as part of your anti-aging. So anyone, let's say, 60 years and above should be on telomerase. And if you came to my office, I'd put you on telomerase.
And I know people are like chomping at the bit. They need information, and I'm going to give you some because one thing I should tell you is Dr. Feinerman now is going to be on our radio show every month, like Dr. Mencia. Of course, he's on more. But Dr. Feinerman also is going to write an article every month, and we have a fabulous article coming up in November, and it's on ED. People who can now, there will be hope for you in a different way with Dr. Feinerman. So let me give you some ways to call him. His landline is 561-557-3358. Now, if you really have an emergency, call him on his cell phone, and that's not, is it an emergency or you don't care if people call him?
No, they can call me.
Okay, call. There's a cell phone. Most doctors won't give you a cell phone.
In other words, after hours or weekends, you can get me on that phone.
Okay, so it's 941-592-6613, and I'll repeat that. Remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio. Get your pencils, get your paper, do it on something, you're not going to lose it. The cell phone is 941-592-6613. He's located in Wellington, and you just look for his article in November. And we're very, very proud to have Dr. Feinerman working with us. It's the missing link that I've had. So let's keep going, Dr. Feinerman.
Now, let's continue on with your idea, which I have actually incorporated. And that is that
I want to get on what you're talking about.
For the anti-aging, why not have people come in, let's say they're 45 years of age, and we'll give you stem cells from your own body that will help to, as we age, everything is, things are going wrong. If you have, let's say, a good quality car and you really take care of it, you go and have it maintained and change the oil and lubricate it and fix any electricity components in it. And you do that. The auto place tells you come in periodically to have that done. Why not do that with the human body? So let's say 45 years, you come in, you get your stem cells for your lungs. 50 years, you come in and you get stem cells for your heart. Let's say 55 years of age, you get stem cells for your kidneys, etc. And
but wait a minute, the stem cells are coming from you. It's not coming from someone else.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, but you could take stem cells and when placed in a certain way, you can isolate them so that they will help repair. These mesenchymal stem cells, for example, can turn into neuron cells if you place them in the central nervous system.
So the brain, right? We're going to get rid of Alzheimer's.
Right. As a preventive. Obviously, it's very easy to, those mesenchymal stem cells, when they get to your heart, which is easy to do intravenously, they'll turn into heart stem cells. So with each and everything, you can actually offer to patients specific ways to repair the aging organ and to rejuvenate it with new, healthy young cells. And so this method is, I think, an infallible and excellent way. Why not avoid these terrible conditions that can affect your body and get stem cells?
This is just so exciting to have you here. He's actually in the studio right now. He's looking gorgeous. He has his beautiful aqua shirt with his aqua match tie. And it's very thrilling because I think you're the first person I have had, as we talked before, Dr. Parita has been on my show, but he does something different than you do. You are really, I would say, a generalist with the stem cells for everything.
Yeah, well,
I had a friend who had ALS, and she was with someone who had huge amounts of money, and they went to Europe. They did everything. I never heard about stem cells with her. So it's been now about 5 years that she passed away, but for 3 years they went everywhere. And I'm just so upset that we didn't know you before, because she was worth saving. And it's a terrible disease. And the fact that you could, with stem cells, could have made a difference in her life. You have me as your great supporter.
Absolutely. Well, just think of Stephen Hawking, the very famous astrophysicist.
You think he's using stem cells to keep himself going?
Stephen Hawking, unfortunately, I don't know why he's not more open, but, he was diagnosed at the age of 25. He was expected to live for maybe 2 years. And here he is 50 years later, still writing books and doing research in astrophysics. And
he won't tell anyone why he's able to live that long?
No. I have a close boyhood friend who was head of the NASA Space Center for many, many years, and he was the chief scientist for the creating the space station. His name is Hans Mark, and he and I have retained our friendship over 80 years together, and I'm going to have him. He's going to get me over to see that guy. Let's talk about my patient Trimble, who lives right here in Fort Myers. He has ALS. He was once a top and famous drummer, and he still gets 1 gig a week on the drums. But he wants, and I told him I'm going to get you up to 4 or 5 gigs, and he's enthusiastic, and it's fun to do. We take neuron brain stem cells, and we mix them with certain other things that are like brain nerve growth factor, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, nerve growth factor, neurotrophins, glial cells, and these are placed inside the central nervous system and brain via just a simple spinal tap. Once you get those stem cells in the cerebral spinal fluid, they go up to the ventricles of the brain and penetrate through the blood-brain barrier. Which brings up an important point, that if you're going off to some so-called stem cell clinic, be careful. You have to take, for certain conditions, you have to have specific stem cells to repair that damaged organ, whether it be the brain or the pancreas or the kidney. And so you need one, the correct type of stem cell, and two, method of administration. You can't just give something IV for each and every, and expect it to get to every organ. And like, for example, you want to get to the stem cells to the kidneys or stem cells to the pancreas. You have to have pancreatic islet stem cells that produce insulin. You have to have the neuron brain stem cell that produce dopamine if you've got Parkinson. So that's an important aspect to remember. But getting back to Trimble and his ALS. Now, he gets two treatments with introducing the stem cells via the spinal canal. But what we may want to do, based upon 10 years of experience, is to put in a very safe, simple, what's called a brain reservoir. It's a let's say it's the size of a walnut, but it's hollow, and it's placed right below the scalp, and so that instead of having to do repeated spinal taps, you just place the give a tiny injection that's under sterile technique right in. You go right through the scalp and right into the brain reservoir, and that brain reservoir is connected with a sterile plastic tubing right into the ventricles of the brain. And so we can give him stem cells once a week if we wanted to, once a month, whatever the plans to make occur. Also, when it comes to thinking about Stephen Hawkins, I'm sure that he's got these real small micro neural implants and different strategic places in the brain. And just like Parkinson patients, where they have an implant called a deep brain stimulation that activates the brain and the nervous system, he can actually think, I want to move my left arm. He says, nothing special. He just has to think about it, and his left arm will start moving. And so, these are. He also has a voice synthesizer, which enables him to speak and respond. And so, you have to think of, sometimes other things to give in addition to such a horrific disease as the ALS.
Let's go back to the drummer.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the drummer. So what condition is he in now?
Well, right now he's just had the early stages of this, and
let's go back. What was he like when you first met him? Could he move?
He moves very slowly, and he walks with a cane, and his hands, which are his the things that he needs most of all for his drumming, of course, they're getting stiff, but we're beginning to see some changes with his hands. His speech is holding up, and he
can he walk? But he's walking. Or he's in a wheelchair.
No. He's walking, and after his last treatment, he said, "My God, I can't believe it.
Fantastic.
I'm walking." And that was a treatment that we actually gave right in the office, that following his other treatment that we gave elsewhere. And so I'm just devoted to this. He's quite a charismatic individual. So your doctors have sometimes get fascinated with certain type of personalities, and which gets them to even motivate them more.
Well, maybe in the future, since you'll be doing a lot of the radio shows, you ought to bring him at some point, or if he'll come, and I think it would be a wonderful thing.
He'll be glad to play the drums. I have a 28-year-old male who we just did what I think is probably the first gene and stem cell treatment for cystic fibrosis, and so we're waiting expectantly to see what progress he's going to make.
It's so thrilling, Dr. Feinerman, to have you on our show. We've had amazing people over the last 25 years, and I would say you're one of the right up there, and one of the top people who are bringing things to our listening audience. We have a very large listening audience. They're sitting on the edge of their seats because this is new stuff, not for you, but for everybody else. This is very new, and the fact that yes, we are in a longevity revolution, and yes, you are leading it, and we're really happy that you're here and you found us, and we're going to hook you up with Dr. Mencia and anybody else we can. Let me give your cell phone number out again, and I'll give the regular landline. If you want to talk with Dr. Feinerman, make an appointment. I believe your consultation is, do you charge for that?
No charge.
No charge. This is so exciting. The cell number is 941-592-6613. The landline is 561-557-3358. And go on their website. Just get your pencils. It's called stemcellgeneticmed.com. That's stemcellgeneticmed.com. And of course, if you didn't get all this information, call our office on Monday and we'll certainly be able to follow up. But we are looking for that article that's going to go in the November issue of Boomer Times on erectile dysfunction is absolutely fabulous. And maybe next time we talk, we can do a whole show on that because
Sure.
we know a lot of people are suffering from that, no matter, no matter their age. They don't have to even be older. So thank you very much for being here with us.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, this is a great thing. And so everybody, it's been wonderful having you this Saturday morning, and go do something really nice. The weather's beautiful, and we'll talk to you next week.